Happy day! Welcome to the session on Introduction to Database Management Systems. In today's session, we are going to talk about what is data, types of data, how data is stored in computers, applications of DBMS, file systems versus database management systems, and the issues in file systems. Moving on, what is data? Data is the raw information that can be processed for any computing machine. Examples of data are employee name, student name, marks, they are all examples for data. What is information? Information is the data that has been converted into a more useful form or an intelligent form. Examples for information are employees who reside in Chennai, student who stood first in a class, etc. Let us see some of the differences between data and information. Data is the raw fact, whereas information is a processed form of data. It is not significant to a business. Data is not very significant to a business, whereas information is very significant to a business. Data is at an atomic level and it is a collection of data is called as an information. Data is a phenomenal fact, whereas information is an organized form of data. Data is a primary level of intelligence, whereas information is a secondary level of intelligence. Let us move on to the different types of data. Data can be broadly classified into structured data and unstructured data. Structured data are mainly quantitative in nature, whereas unstructured data are qualitative in nature. Structured data stands for information which is highly organized and factual to the point, whereas unstructured data is one which is predefined structure and comes in a diversity of forms. Examples for qualitative data are data warehouses, relational databases, data lakes, non-relational databases are examples for qualitative data. Data storage in computers. When we are talking about computers, data is stored in the form of file systems or database management. We will focus on file systems and database management in this session. Each type has its own advantages and disadvantages. What is DBMS? A collection of interrelated data, manual, computerized or online, is called a DBMS. And DBMS is a set of programs to access the data. DBMS provides an environment which is very convenient for the user to access, retrieve, store and delete data. They are the following applications of DBMS. DBMS touches all walks of our life. For example, starting from human resources to banking, railways, airlines, universities, productions, inventory, order management. DBMS touches every walk of life. Why do we use DBMS? Mainly to avoid data redundancy. What do I mean by redundancy? Redundancy refers to multiple file formats or duplication of information in different files. To avoid difficulty in accessing data, we use DBMS. Using a DBMS, we can write a program to carry out each task efficiently. To deal with data isolation, multiple files and multiple storage can be reduced. To deal with integrity problems, integrity constraints like trying to save an account and maintaining an account balance of minimum account balance in a banking transaction, trying to check out for a student's age which is greater than 18, things like that require database integrity constraints, and it's also easy for new constraints to change existing ones. The atomicity of updates. What do I mean by atomicity of updates? Failures may leave the database inconsistent state with partial updates. So, whenever you update a database, there can be failures of not updating the database throughout. So, example, transfer of funds from one account to another should either complete or not happen at all. It cannot be left partially. So, that atomicity helps in using that particular DBMS application. Concurrent access by multiple users. When many people are able to access the same database, concurrent access needs best performance, Uncontrolled and concurrent access can lead to inconsistencies. To reduce inconsistency, we use DBMS. What is data? The factual information, observation, facts and statistics, values and figures all constitute data which can be combined together as DBMS. So, database is a collection of all these information put together. For example, the employee data is called as an employee database, which constitutes the information about all the employees in a particular organization. What are the advantages of using a database? Data independence, consistency constraints, data security features, database backup and recovery is easier, and support and complex data relationships. It also helps in redundancy control and advanced capabilities. Let us see some of the differences between a file systems and database management system. Why should we use a DBMS rather than a file systems? Each has its own advantages and disadvantages. Let us see few advantages and disadvantages of using a file system or a DBMS. A file system is a software which manages and organizes the files in a storage medium. So, it controls how the data is stored and retrieved, whereas a DBMS is a software application and it is used for accessing, creating and managing databases. A file system provides the details of the data, representation and storage of data. DBMS gives an abstract view of the data and hides the unnecessary details. Storing and retrieving of data can't be done efficiently in a file system, whereas a DBMS is very efficient in extracting data. File system does not offer data recovery processes. Once the data is lost, we are finding it difficult to recover data, whereas there is a backup for all your DBMS. DBMS is easy for implementing complicated transactions, whereas file systems do not support or complicated transactions. There is no efficient way of query processing in file systems, whereas DBMS has a very efficient query processing system. File system, there are a lot of issues in a file system. The redundancy of data, inconsistency of data and difficulty for data access are some of the issues when we are talking about a file system. So, whenever we are using a file, data is said to be redundant if the same data is copied at many places. If a student has to change his phone number, he has to get it updated in various sections. For example, if old records contain his old phone numbers, the new numbers has to be updated in n number of places, whereas if you are going to use a database management system, the updation becomes easier. Inconsistency of data. Data is said to be inconsistent if multiple copies of the same data does not match with each other. If phone number is different in different sections, for example, if it is different in an academic section and it is different in the account section, it becomes difficult for us to identify which is the exact and correct information. Difficult data access. A user should know the exact location of a file to access data. So, the process is very cumbersome and tedious. File systems may lead to unauthorized access and no concurrent access. The access of the same data by multiple users in the same time is known as concurrency. File systems do not allow concurrency, whereas database management systems allows for concurrency. No backup and recovery. File systems do not incorporate any backup and recovery mechanisms if your data is lost, whereas if your DBMS is, if you are storing your data in a database management, it is easy for backup and recovery. What is management? Generally, management refers to creation, retrieval, updation and deletion of information. For example, we talk about money management, referring to earning of money, storing money somewhere, querying money, distribute the money and spend the money. Database management talks about mainly creating a database. For example, we create an employee database, we create a student database, we create a train database. They are all examples for databases. Retrieving a database, extracting information from the database that we have been creating. For example, if we have created a student database, we can extract the number of students who stood first in the class, or we can extract the number of students who are residing in a particular area. updation of a database and deleting a database. These are some of the management aspects or the managing operations of any database management. So, the database management system is a software which is used to manage the database. It defines data, updates data, retrieves data and also administers the data. Thank you so much.